demonstration. But the difference in it is these.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I'm Bob Jones. Some people call me Gramps. I've got a little YouTube that I talk to interpreters and historians.
Please have a seat.
All right, I do a little bit of everything and things that I like. But one of the things I love, Virginia history, and your name is.
With my head off, I'm Steve Riordan, retired Navy commander. Started out my career flying. Flew F-4 Phantoms during Vietnam. After Vietnam, I was non-physically qualified. I'm not going to go into that.
Right.
I spent the next 18 years as an aircraft maintenance officer. 13 years at sea out of 23. So, served on the Intrepid, the Enterprise, Kitty Hawk, and Carl Vinson. And then did CQ, which is Cara Qualifications.
Was all of your military life in the Air Force?
Navy.
Oh, I'm sorry, Navy.
Yeah,
okay.
Naval Aviation.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. We did have we did have that other air arm.
Right.
Yeah.
My father-in-law, he was in Army Air Force, and that's that's kind of a misnomer when you think about it. You know, Army and Air Force.
Yeah, yes.
But that's where he served.
Well, actually, my son up there, Mike, was with the 160th.
Okay.
Air Squad. Well, what do you call it, Mike?
Special Operations Aviation Regiment. 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment.
I got you.
They were part. Most people don't know what the 160th is. But the 160th, the movie Black Hawk Down, those were our birds.
Okay.
The Bin Laden raid, when the bird went down inside the Bin Laden compound, that was us.
What did you think of the movie compared to what? You know?
Black Hawk Down is actually pretty accurate. One of the downed pilots wrote that story.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was written by a member of the 160th.
I saw it. It was a.
That was about as factual as it could have gotten.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I was never in the service, but I had a disabled veteran father, and both of my sons, both military professionals. And Vietnam War, for me, I was a student, and it just worked out that I didn't go. You know.
I'm glad you didn't, sir.
Well, I had a lot of uncles in World War II and stuff. I asked one of them one time. You know, when you get so many in your family that do that and support, and you think about it. But I had one under the old oak tree one day. He said, "You did the right thing for you." But I try to put back in, and I appreciate what people have done for us, you know. And a lot of people don't realize this. That's one of the reasons I'm here today. You know, so.
Yeah, my grandfather was in World War II. He fought over in France. He was a combat engineer.
Right. And, you know, and what a lot of people don't realize, it was a different time. You can't pick up a phone and talk to somebody. My dad was back in the States after the Battle of the Bulge, you know, hurt in Texas. His family for 6 months didn't know if he was there, and they really didn't know if he was alive. Yeah. And right now, I could pick up the phone, my Air Force son, and talk to him over there, and I hear chanting. I went, "Where are you?" You know, it's a scary world, and but the communication is here. But
I can so readily identify with. I'm third generation Navy, by the way.
Are you?
Yeah, my dad was. My dad was Naval Academy class of '42, and that class graduated December 19th of 1941 for some odd reason.
Yeah.
And he was.
Where did they send him after Pearl? Where did he go?
Right away. Yeah, he was at Pearl and joined the Northampton on February 6th. Was sunk in the Northampton December 1st of 42. Went on home for survivor's leave, got reassigned to the San Francisco, got sunk in the San Francisco, and then came back and went to flight school. Decided he'd had enough ship rides for a while.
What about his father?
World War I.
Okay.
He was pretty much West Coast space. Support tankers. Just he had mostly short jobs.
Okay. Yeah. Now, once you put your
and he was not career Navy.
He wasn't?
No, my dad and I were. But
Okay. Did he get drafted or something, or World War I?
No, he didn't get drafted. Nobody ever drafted anyone in the Navy
Okay.
since they stopped Shanghaiing people.
Yeah, you walk into the bar and you wake up in the hold of a ship somewhere. I saw that on Bonanza.
Yeah, since the British Navy stopped the chain gangs.
Yeah. So what when you put your hat on here, what character do you become here?
Well, let me put my hat on. Assuming I can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Come over here. Russell, if we had our chair, that was a little bit more sturdy than this one.
All right, I'm acting Rear Admiral Phillips Sidney Lee. Most people say, well, gee, were you related? Yes. General Lee was my second cousin. And I didn't go south because I'd seen the world and I knew that I didn't believe in slavery, for one thing. You know, one of the things that people don't understand about the Navy at that time is the Navy was an equal opportunity employer. It was really, really hard to get qualified personnel to sail on ships. Sailing on ships was hard. I mean, just hard living, not even hard work. It's hard work, but hard living. And as a captain of a Navy ship, I didn't care what God you believed in. I didn't care what race you were. I probably didn't even care what your sexual orientation was. What I did care about was whether or not you knew which halyard to pull in a gale force wind.
Right.
That was what mattered to me. Or later on, where we as the war started, and we started getting what's called contraband, which were freed slaves, we incorporated them into the Navy like everybody else. And we used them as stokers. Sometimes we used them as gunners. They had all the same opportunities that any other white man in the Navy had, except they couldn't be officers. So,
you're speaking of your famous cousin. Did you survive the war?
yes, I did.
Okay.
I went on to do.
What was your relation with him after the war?
Well, I knew his brother better than I knew him.
Okay.
Because Admiral Lee, his older brother, I served with his brother in the U.S. Navy before the war, and so I mean he was senior to me.
Uh-huh.
But I knew him and respected him. I never really had a relationship with the general, aside from the fact that he was Army. And of course, we can't talk to Army personnel.
Right. Well, you grew up in what, Northern Virginia?
I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Okay. Did you ever visit him
But
as
you
a
got
boy?
to remember, you say, I grew up in Northern Virginia. I joined the Navy when I was 13.
Wow.
So the only thing that I knew from then on out was the Navy. And that's what you do. That's the way things are.
There was something called primogeniture. You know what I'm talking about? Primogeniture?
Oh, primogeniture.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I looked, and a lot of generals, a lot of famous generals, are like the second child, because the oldest used to get everything, and you either had to stay there and listen to the oldest, or he was basically your father and your boss, and that was it.
Well, that was true. That was true on both sides of the Atlantic. Now, fortunately, because we didn't have all the hereditary hierarchy nonsense, we didn't have entails on land.
Well, what I'm getting at is, when you were 13,
Yeah.
why did you join? Did you have an older brother that was,
No, I was
wanted to be your own boss?
I was promised. My father was a postmaster, and he was a postmaster and rose up through the rank. He got to know Montgomery Blair. Montgomery Blair was the Postmaster General of the United States.
Okay.
And he got to be very, very good friends. Well, through nepotism, which was the way most things worked back in that day and age.
Right. And still does a lot now.
Yeah, no comment. Basically, I was promised midshipman billet, so
Right.
that's how that worked. Interesting story, jumping ahead. I married Montgomery Blair's daughter. So Montgomery Blair was my father-in-law. Montgomery Blair built a house for myself and my wife, which is directly across from the White House. Today it's called Blair House. That's my home.
Really? Amazing.
Blair House is my home.
You know,
and
all
it
these,
remained in the family until I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe Franklin Roosevelt bought it.
all these years that, you know, I've watched the news and stuff like that, and I hear the Blair House, you know, and I don't get up that way too much, but it's kind of like, I know it. And I'm sitting here with a guy that grew up there. That's amazing. Well, that's why I asked you how it was with your brother. You know, it's like you had some people that were generals, and they went to West Point together or went to military schools, and they were the best of friends. They loved each other. Some they hated each other, never spoke to each other again. Some picked it up and kind of like, I just reading personal stories where one captured general was sitting there, and the general that captured him invited him over for dinner, and he wouldn't come have dinner with him. That type of thing, and it's reflected right today. You know, it's kind of like they just won't let it go.
That's absolutely true. In the movie Gettysburg, General Armistead goes on this soliloquy about wanting to see Winfield Hancock, who he served with.
Okay.
Joe Johnston and Winfield Hancock. Of course, Joe Johnston's killed at Shiloh. And apparently Armistead made this, they were out in California, and he made this promise that if he was ever opposite Winfield Scott, Lord strike me dead. Well,
right.
He died. He apparently died of sepsis because the wound he received crossing the hill, wasn't that life-threatening. But yeah, that illustrates your point. Before the war, even if they weren't West Point classmates, and certainly many were,
right,
they were very, very close together.
And like I said, the carnage and everything that happens, and people are living so good today, they have no concept of what has happened, or they don't understand what can happen or what is going to happen. It's like what's old is new, what's new is old. I mean, human nature, it's always going to be that way. But
yeah, we have a couple of friends that are Mennonites that work for us periodically, and there's a lot to be said for the lifestyle. I don't want to give up electricity.
Right.
Electricity and air conditioning, I don't want to give up.
Well,
but the other stuff, the children grow up really healthy, with healthy attitudes.
Well, I had God-fearing parents. We were Methodist. We joined up with Presbyterians, and I didn't see a whole lot of difference. We had a couple of kids from Ireland. They had a program where they took a 11-year-old Irish Protestant and Irish Catholic kid and put them at home to promote peace back in the 70s.
Yeah.
That was back when times were rough over there.
Yeah.
And they came over here, and it was funny. The kids were talking. All these kids were asking, is it really bad over there, bombing? And went, it's just as bad right here. They got fed up with being asked that question. And by the time the summer was over, they turned from British kids into Virginia Beach kids. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, we're all the same. It's just a matter of communicating. What I'm doing on the phone here is not the same as somebody coming out here and sitting down and listening to you. Right. I'm hoping to show this, maybe someone will say, hey, come here and look at this.
Well, fortunately, unless you're talking about race in the United States, you don't have the ingrained visceral hatred that exists between Catholics and Protestants in the North.
Well, my sister-in-law married a Catholic, and we went to a Catholic church with those two Irish kids, and I remember them looking like, and they're asking us questions, and they're just stunned. One of them, and she used to be a Catholic, and now she converted, or whatever, and they can't comprehend it. But we went back over to Ireland back in the 70s, and we were there. They can tell you who was killed over by that rock, who did this, who put who to the sword, all the way back to the 1200s.
Yeah.
And it's going like, okay, at what point do we kind of like break bread together? Maybe we can break bread. We can kill each other later. You know, it's the non-communication that I don't understand.
You know, I had an experience of that, and it was very interesting. I had an experience of that in an English pub. I was on the Intrepid. We pulled into, actually it was a Scottish pub. We pulled into Gurrock, Scotland, and and I was a junior officer at that point, Lieutenant JG, or Lieutenant something. Anyway, and so a bunch of us junior officers got together and went to a bar. Well, we had two black guys with us, two black officers, and we went into the pub, and there was a bunch, I guess, of rugby players. I found rugby a little more rowdy than soccer, and one of the black guys was talking to one of the Scottish girls, and this guy took exception to that. And he started berating him, and all of a sudden he had 30 naval officers around him. And I thought to myself, you know, at home, we're Irishmen, we're all these things that we haven't been for 100 years or more. We have to go overseas to become Americans. It's kind of sad.
Yeah. Are you Irish?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you're talking.
Irish Catholic.
You're talking to an Irishman here.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm told I have some Cherokee in me, but it's like my boss used to always tell me, I don't know if it's the Irish in you today or if it's the Indian, you know. But we're just people, you know. And as you get older, I'm not saying that I've mellowed, but I'm trying to like kind of understand. And I look back, and history helps me because it reassures me that people had the same issues that we have right today. People don't see it. People don't. It's a matter. Sit down and talk. You're going to feel better when you walk away from each other. Yeah. You know, I don't know what the answer is, but thank you very much for talking to me today.
Oh,
it's been great.
One of my best friends, and I don't have very many best friends. I think like 3.
You don't need but a few.
Well, yeah, but it's pretty funny because he is so far right of MAGA, he's part of Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And we've just gotten to the point, and I don't consider myself a liberal. I consider myself a Republican, Lincoln Republican. I'm a moderate.
Frankly, I hate labels. I'm a Southern white boy. You know what I mean? And I'm sick of it, you know? Yeah. And I've got professional people in my family. I've got people that stole chickens, you know? But I'm me, you know?
Well, Genny and I we get along great still. We just don't talk politics.
And that happens, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we don't, but like I said, I've got very good friends that have been good to me. No reason to be good to me. They're just good people. Yeah. And that's what we've got to try to do here. Well, thank you very much for this talk.
Oh, my pleasure.
You look.
Sorry, we didn't really talk very much about the Civil War, but.
Well, no, we did, because this is kind of the same thing. You are an imposing figure. Have you done anything like any movies or anything like that? Or?
No, the most I've done is lectures here and there.
Okay.
But my son and I are actually we're going to be at Fort Pocahontas next weekend.
Really? Yep. Right there in Petersburg?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
When?
And my son and I are doing a 30-minute back and forth about the USS Dawn. We're talking about the James River in general.
Right.
But specifically about
what happened with the USS Dawn and the Battle of Pocahontas.
Okay.
Which actually wasn't called Pocahontas, it was called Wilson's Wharf.
Wilson's Wharf, yeah.
Wilson's Wharf.
Yeah.
And so we're going to come up with something like, how the Navy won the Battle of Wilson's Wharf. We really did contribute a lot.
When are you going to do that?
That's 11:50 on Saturday.
Oh, this coming Saturday. Okay.
We'll be in the tent, 11:50.
11:50.
We'll talk about how the Navy won the Battle of Wilson's Wharf.
Amazing. Like I said, when I grew up, I never went to Petersburg. It was run down. You just didn't go there unless you wanted something to happen to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the one thing we have to be careful about is Pocahontas, again Wilson's War,
Right.
was actually defended by the 48th UCT,
Okay.
the 48th Union Colored Troop Regiment.
Yeah.
They had about 1,100 people under General Wild, and did a very creditable job. But they also, in their mind, had the memory of what happened at Fort Pillow a month earlier, where the UCT was massacred by the Confederates. And that was horrible. So they pretty much, God, I can't think of the Confederate general's name right now. It wasn't Fitzhugh Lee, but somebody, it was Hampton. Hampton offered him surrender. Well, if you're black, surrender means, oh, gee. He said, yeah, I offer you surrender, you get to be a POW. Well, first of all, being a POW in a Civil War camp with your North and South is horrible. I mean, the death rate is horrible.
They shoot a lot of movies down at Fort Pocahontas. I was in a couple of movies down there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can't think of the one. But anyway, it's the same type of subject here, you know. Anyway, between that, it's really movies and Hollywood and their version of history is completely different than what it's a different breed. So I'll talk to reenactors and they'll go like, oh no, I don't do that, you know. And then Hollywood's got their own little routine. They kind of like, you know what I'm saying, you're going to do it our way, or that's, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why you're talking to an independent actor here. I've done a few things here, enough to say like, yeah, he was an actor, but
actually, you asked me about that. I was in the original Top Gun for 15 seconds.
Really?
As a silhouette.
Now that's my son's favorite movie. Where can we look for you? What part of the movie?
At the very beginning, when you see the people walking along the flight deck and doing things with the aircraft.
Okay.
You see this one silhouette of a guy who's walking the wing and feeling the ailerons on the F-14 that's on the catapult.
That's you?
That's me.
They're probably not going to be. You probably didn't have a beard then.
No.
Okay.
No. And it's a black silhouette. Yeah, because it's the morning. It's our morning shots. I mean, early morning shots.
Admiral Lee, thank you very much.
Hey, my pleasure, sir.
It was great.